President Obama has said that a key part of his healthcare reform plan is to digitize all healthcare records and put them in an electronic database to ensure consistency of care. The administration wants the transition to electronic records to be finished by the year 2015. Here to talk about the pros and the cons of electronic healthcare records is Bill Conroy. He's the CEO of Initiate Systems. Hey, Bill, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
So first of all, if you would, explain what role Initiate has in this whole process. You work in this space already, correct?
We do. We've had a lot of success in the U.S. and elsewhere with electronic health records. If you think about electronic health records, you can approach them a couple of different ways. One is to simply take what is in paper-based records today and put them in an electronic format. What we focus on is accurately bringing together a comprehensive view of patients so that those records can be shared successfully.
So, since you've worked in this space for a little while, can you explain to the layperson what this goal would mean, digitizing all healthcare records, and how would this actually unfold? How would it work in an ideal world?
Well, I think a lot of U.S. citizens are used to, as patients, having to literally carry their own patient records as they go from doctor to doctor. And they had to bring them also to make sure that the physicians knew the accurate clinical histories. But now if they're electronic and they truly combine the multiple records we as patients have into a single format, they can electronically be shared, and I think there'll be less mistreatment as a result.
So in a perfect world, we would be able to show up at a new doctor in a new town if we'd moved, and that doctor would be able to pull down our record from wherever we'd lived before.
Absolutely, and as you know, those records can take a structured text type of a format, or they could be a film, as an example, radiology.
So this all sounds great. Are there any shortcomings to this process?
Well, there is, in that your average physician doesn't have an IT staff. They probably don't have anybody in their office that's capable of setting up an electronic medical record and then going and making sure that their paper-based records don't have duplicates themselves. It's certainly been a lot of people's experience that although their records are paper-based, they might have 2 or 3 paper-based records that seem to be for 3 different people, but they're all for the same person.
Have you come across those issues already?
Absolutely. In fact, when we look at large hospitals, we find duplication rates that can be as high as 20%.
So how do you mitigate for that? If you were sitting with the president and talking about healthcare reform and he asked you, all right, how do you fix that? How do you address that? What would you say?
Well, I think you have to have standards. The technologies exist to go and look through all those medical records and make sure that if 2 people who appear to be different are in fact the same, that you take a look at that and you condense those records or merge those records into one based on standards that the government can publish.
Mm-hmm. And how far along are we already? The president has articulated a deadline of the year 2015 to make sure all these records are digitized by that point. Has it started? Has the process gotten underway yet?
I think it's gotten underway. Some of the policies that need to be published out of Washington have not been published yet. And until they are, I think there's a hesitancy for people to invest.
What's so hard about this, though? You would think that everything is digitized right now. I mean, why are we now in the year 2010 still dealing with paper records?
Well, I think most citizens have an experience where they've met a doctor who simply resists change. And I think it's our job to make sure that that change is as easy for those physicians as possible. So I think it's a traditional industry that has just not digitized.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see this moving forward? How do you, in your current position in your company, stand to benefit from this process?
Well, our big customers are already the hospitals in America. And I think if you ask yourself the question, will a primary care physician go out and buy their own electronic health record, buy the servers and PCs that are necessary to implement that, or will they depend on the hospital that they already do business with? I think it's likely they'll depend on the hospital. So because the hospitals are our customers today, we think they'll propagate our technology into the physician office.
Mm-hmm. And what concerns do you hear from doctors? I imagine that those are conversations that you've had over the years about what are the major challenges for them. What do you hear from the doctors?
Well, a big concern of physicians, and it should be, is accuracy. Like all of us, if we go into a system and we know there should be a lab result there, but it's just not there, you start to distrust the system. So I think it's important that doctors look at the electronic health record and they're impressed by how comprehensive and accurate it is. If they are, I think there'll be widespread use.
I mean, a lot of this, as you point out, has to do with just trust, right? You have to trust the system, and that's scary for some people, I imagine, who are used to just having the paper in front of them.
Absolutely. Physicians want to treat patients. They don't want to worry about an electronic health record. As they begin to use electronic health records, if they trust them, they're going to use them.
Bill Conroy, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
For more technology news, go to abcnews.com or check us out on your iPhone. I'm Rachel Martin in Washington, and now you are ahead of the curve.